Hello, hello. I am Molly McKinley, and today we are going to be talking about technology and trust, what every agent needs to know about navigating AI, authority, and accountability as it relates to creating trust online. So, without further mention, we are going to go ahead and lock into this. So let's get this started. So, in an industry built on relationships and trust, technology isn't replacing the human element. It's only amplifying what gets trusted in the first place. And the reason why I want to start with that is because I know that there is so much frustration, anxiety, fear around AI. But the good news and what we'll cover today is the work that you're already doing to build trust in a person to person, belly to belly way are actually the same authority signals for AI. And so I'm going to just show you how to take what you're already doing and then put it online, where and when to put it online, so that you can build that same trust. But hopefully, this session will alleviate some of the fear that you're going to be adding a whole bunch of extra work to your plate, but instead, we're just going to be talking about the things that you're doing to make sure that you're creating breadcrumbs for AI as well. So the good news, again, that I want to share is that the folks who are doing already some ridiculous things in terms of community building, are all wonderful, wonderful things that you should continue to do, and it will help you. Alrighty. So today's mission is to one, understand what is happening. And that understanding and that learning of what's happening will then help you be guided and informed so you know where to prioritize your effort. The second step is we're going to be talking about implementation. Like, what are the things that you could be doing now to help AI find you and also find you in a place of trust building and authority? And then, third, how do you protect yourself? How do you protect yourself from liability? How do you protect yourself from potential embarrassment? By making sure that you understand where AI is pulling, how it's pulling, and some of the pitfalls, so that you are well informed to make smart choices. All right, so we're going to start with some basic understanding, and then this framework will hopefully help you start to piece the layers together so that you can choose what is most right for your own strategies. So I love this metaphor of a three-layered cake because it's easy to remember and it's a fun visual. So at the very, very bottom is SEO, search engine optimization. Think about that like the best realtor near me. The AEO is the answer engine optimization, and that is the snippets. That's the voice FAQs, like, hey, Google, give me a recipe for chicken noodle soup kind of thing. And then the GEO and is when we are in the actual AI agent, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity, where you're having a conversation with the AI as a guide, as a conversational. And this is where the future of search is actually going. So we're going to build foundationally up so that we are covered in all of the ways that people find you online. So the first step is search engine optimization. So I have here on the right side a general search. I just did a quick search like agents near me. I live in Apex, North Carolina. And what I want you to see in this search engine results page, or called the SERP, is sort of a breakdown of how agents and real estate agents are found. So the top quarter, or the top third, is really about sponsored or sponsored content. And these are sponsored agents that are showing up in my search, best agent near me. And then the second group here is going to be sponsored brokerages that are dominating that search, or SERP if you will. And then the third here are the organic businesses that are ranking. And these businesses that are ranking in best agents near me, what is often a indicator here are these 4.9 5-star reviews and the quality of those reviews. And I want you to pay particular notice there because that becomes really, really critical for AI when you start to maintain your Google business profile. So a few things here that really matter that I want to make sure that you're on top of. So first of all, go into incognito mode on your browser. And if you don't know what that is, there's a little three-dot hamburger bar up in your top screen. Click on that and go into incognito mode. When you're doing a test search for how you're ranking, you always want to make sure you're in that incognito mode. Otherwise, all of your own personal past searches are going to inform what you see. And if you're on your website and you're working on your own website, it's going to naturally rank on a normal browser because of your past history. So we do want to make sure that we're testing in incognito mode. But if you haven't been, so first of all, just go into incognito mode and just test to see how you're already showing up with search. The second thing is your Google business profile. If you don't have that claimed yet, you should, and just Google business profile, and then you'll see that Google page come up, and then just make sure you claim your business. There's something called NAP, name, address, phone number, and that NAP is a signal of consistency. And so this Keller Williams Legacy Apex, the Dream Team Realty Group at Keller Williams, these folks are doing a great job of their NAP, name, address, phone number, and being really consistent across the web. Plus, they have decent amount of 5-star reviews, which means that they're going to rank higher organically than somebody who doesn't have those authority signals. So reviews and consistency across the web matters. And when I say consistency across the web, if you've changed brokerages, or if you have, you've changed your brand or whatever those things may be, making sure that you tighten all of that so that you have all of the same signals for your name, address, and phone number consistent across the entire web. And a lot of times we will move and we just won't clear up that stuff. So make sure that you do that because AI really does listen to those signals. And it's important that you get that right. So a pro tip here in terms of how do you optimize for SEO as it relates to just general search engine optimization. When you're Googling something and like best realtor near me, for example, you'll notice that there is a drop down of a bunch of other suggestions that sort of autofill your search query. That's called autocomplete. And take a screenshot of that and that gives you a little bit of a snippet of what people are searching for in your area. This gives you a really great free guidepost of what type of content that you should be creating, how to optimize the content that you have created. And it's just a really great way for you to see popular search terms in your area. So again, that autocomplete section, so real estate in your town, best cottage homes in your town or whatever, start just to see what autofills when you're in the search bar and leverage that. The next aspect of where we're going is the answer engine optimization. And here is an example in our SERP, our search engine results page, of the AI overview of how AI is now answering queries directly. And again, this interstitiary between like traditional search and where we're going, which is the generative engine optimization. So here I asked the query like best real estate agent for cottages in Apex, North Carolina. And here what you'll see is some information about cottage style collections. It does give me some areas of new construction, different types of locations. And these are really important. And this is the beginning of answer engine optimization, where you are thinking about how can you answer queries or answer questions that your community may have, so that you can be found when AI answers for you in this format. So one of the ways we do that is by having FAQs on the bottom of our posts. So if you are creating a blog post about your community, make sure that you are putting FAQs on the bottom of that post so that you can give immediate breadcrumbs to the AI as it relates to direct search. Again, taking that auto recommendation drop down as your guide, start to answer questions in your local area as an FAQ, and then make sure that it's attached. Now, what's really interesting about this is featured snippets are also for voice. So, hey, Siri, kind of things. So whatever you're doing online, just make sure that FAQ is your golden ticket so that it can be found, whether it's in an AI overview or in search. And this is just a really great thing. A lot of you have already done really beautiful neighborhood guides. You've done, buying and selling homes in your communities. You've already created a lot of this type of content. Maybe it's even like best, back in the day where could the whole like be a mayor of your town, and you might have videos created about different coffee shops and neighborhoods and what it's like to live. So take that content that you've already created and just add FAQs on the bottom, or take a video content, make a blog post, for example, and then add an FAQ on that. So not having to restart from scratch, just taking what you've already done and make sure that you're optimizing it for this piece. The next area is that generative engine optimization, and this is really where we're heading. This is the conversation within the agent, the chat, the AI agent, where people are starting to get refers, they're starting to have conversation, they're starting to ask dynamic questions, and they're getting advice. And so this is really where everything sort of crescendos, if you will. Again, no secret, the ChatGPT embedded in Zillow announcement that happened a few weeks ago is an example where now in Zillow, users will be able, or customers will be able to be inside Zillow having these same kind of conversations. And if you notice here, this was done a few weeks ago, where I just said, hey, I'm curious about cottage style homes. Oops, I'll fast forward here. Look interested in cottage style homes in Apex, and then again starts to do it. You'll notice here that Zillow was already starting to deliver cottage style homes. So they have been testing this at least for about a month. But this is an example of how a client could potentially find you. And you want to be the agent who gets recommended down here. Agents who specialize in these areas, Mike Proctor, Tony Marahi, are examples of how that's going to start to look. And if you are getting recommended by the AI, as an agent specializing in this thing, you're already at the gate. That's already a third-party validation, which is the third-party validation is the single most important behavioral motivator in marketing, because people like to, your neighbor doing something is about as significant as any other behavioral motivation. As it relates to behavioral psychology. And so getting an AI to recommend you is as good as a referral from a friend, especially as we start to develop deeper connections with our AIs. So again, how do you check yourself? Go into the ChatGPT, go into Perplexity, go into Claude, and just play around with some search terms like who is the top real estate agent in your area, who specializes in whatever it is that you specialize, and try to get a sense of who is already showing up. And this is a great time and a great opportunity for you to really drill down on stuff that you're passionate about. If you love cottage homes or modern homes, or if you have a coastal edge, or if you have a lifestyle property for golf courses or horses or whatever it is, this is a really great opportunity now to sort of lean into what you're already loving and making sure that the AI is going to be able to find you and you'll be able to find it through content. So, hopefully, you're all tracking now. Again, not feeling overwhelmed. This is an iteration of another technology and another iteration of where content is going. And again, the same foundation that makes you discoverable to AI creates the same authority markers that humans trust you more. So it's not an either or, it's a yes and. And what I mean by that is authority markers are things like we've already talked about third-party validation. We've already talked about that a referral. So again, those reviews, that's a digital refer. So we want to make sure that those things that already help create trust are just in places that are searchable for the AI. So, but before we do that, I really want to make sure we have a foundational understanding of what we're talking about here so that you can then prioritize and hopefully the penny will drop for you in terms of how AI actually works, what types of AI there actually are, and then figuring out what to do about it. So, for the sake of what we're talking about and ranking within the chat GPTs, the Claudes of the world, these are LLMs. These are large language models. And what I want you to know about LLMs, it's like the best assistant that you've ever had who has scanned and scoured and read every single piece of everything on the web, right? And because of that, they're able to predict how language is sourced together. So LLMs aren't necessarily thinking the way that we think about thinking as humans, but what they are is that they're master predictors of patterns. And so when we're talking about things like name, address, phone numbers, that NAP, or when we're talking about things like words matching, these LLMs are masters of it. It's also the reason why it's a great opportunity for folks who have really great reviews to make sure that your reviews, the content match the words on your website. So that if you're saying that you specialize in this, and then your reviews are saying you specialize in this, you get a match, and then the AI says that's true. Anything that you have that you could do to create more matches and more consistencies with LLMs, that is great. That sends an authority signal. But when you're having words on your page that don't match anything else that exists, let's just take your name, address, phone number, for example. If you have this on your website and all over the web, it's something different that doesn't match. And so that sends a signal of distrust, and therefore you are unlikely to be shown as it relates to in that GEO discussion with the AI. So this is basically LLMs. Most LLMs are large language models plus a RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation, which is where you start to get the links. So the retrieval means that we add a layer of thinking into the mix. So if you're saying, tell me about the latest news and how do I understand it, like if I'm in my AI, you'll notice that it's thinking and it sends you links within context in your AI agent. So that's an LLM plus RAG, and that is where your content becomes really important, and also recent relevant content as part of your strategy for authority building, because those RAGs will pull in recent content if optimized. So that is a one-two as it relates to how this is working. But not all AIs are LLMs or RAGs. And so I just want to kind of name a few so that you can start to have some context. But for what we're doing, these LLMs and RAGs are where we're focused. There's also agentic AI. Agentic AI is the AI that's probably in your software for your CRM that starts to do basic tasks without your approval. So that's if this happens, then this happens, and you don't have to think about it. So that is agentic AI. We also have specialized AI. Specialized AI does one thing very, very well. Those are your video. AIs like the Soros, the your probably like your box brownies where you do your visual they enhance your room. We also have computer vision, which does read images. We also have predictive AI, which tells you based on data things that are likely to happen. You have like Revaluate, for example, as a great example of a predictive AI tool. And then you have an NLP, which is a natural language processor, which starts to also show up in terms of like how we speak. And that NLPs, they also track sentiment. So the AIs are able to say, okay, yeah, so this is a generally believed idea based on what we can receive and analyze about all of the sentiment of something. So again, basic overview, lots of AIs out there, but we're focused on LLMs and we're focused on RAGs. Okay, so what does this all mean for authority building and trust? So AI systems do favor that content that appears frequently and consistently across multiple sources. So again, thinking about that agent or your assistant who reads every single piece of content, the more times that content shows up in places, the more likely it is to be true and the more likely it is to rank. So if you're going to be creating a blog post, for example, make sure that you have that blog post in a in a video form on YouTube. Also putting that on social media. Yes, 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 yes. And then we start to say we're creating that consistency across channels, multiple touches, which is great. And it's good for your content strategy because then you're not remaking a bunch of content, you're using and putting all of the content in all of the places. So professional credentials like awards, media mentions, these actually create authority signals. So what do I actually mean by media? So from my perspective, media is newspapers, magazines, radio shows, podcasts, uh, anything, blog posts, anything where you have a third party validating you. So I'm dating myself back in the day when I used to do PR. A big win would have been like a Wall Street Journal. I would still posit that like a Wall Street Journal or like a New York Times still has a very high authority signal because it is a sort of like the creme de la creme of news channels. And that matters too. I know awards are one of those things where often they're paid to play, but in the sake of AI, any kind of third-party validation, it does send a signal that you are worthy. So making sure that any awards that you have earned, that you make sure that you have those logos for that computer vision that's reading the images attached to your websites, attached to your content, so that you make sure that you're connecting award-winning with what you're doing. Your professional credential, getting certificates, doing extra training, anything, those designations that you can get, those actually do say, hey, this is somebody you can trust. So that work you've already done to do that extra, whereas someone may have been able to say, hey, look at me, I'm number one. Now, if you've actually done the work and have earned the credentials, now you actually, it works in your favor. So it's a time now where a little bit of credibility and some checking matters. And again, the more places your expertise appears online, the more likely the AI is to recommend you. All right. So there are four critical pillars that we're going to focus on. as it relates to you building or focusing your effort, and you can choose which you feel is the most relevant for how you do business and aligned with your unique skill set. The first are media mentions. That's what we said: newspaper, magazine, blogs, podcasts, articles, speaking opportunities, awards. All of that is media. The second is reviews, those testimonials, reviews. I'm a big believer in Google. The third is content, and we'll talk about some content pieces. And then finally, YouTube. And the reason why YouTube is so critical is because YouTube is the second largest search engine on our planet. And so we really should be thinking about YouTube as it relates to how people find and discover content more than it is just a video distribution channel. So strategic media and PR. So a couple of pro tips here for you. Getting PR is not as hard as you think it may be. There are a couple of really great free sources that you can use and access. The first is called HARO, Help a Reporter Out, and you can just Google that. It was originally started by Peter Shankman. He sold it to, I believe, PR Newswire, and now has started a secondary one called Subscribe to, which is SOS, which is also, if you go to SOS and then Google Peter Shankman, it's a source of sources. And these two are free newsletters. And they'll basically, you subscribe to an email where every morning and every afternoon you will have an email summary of different people in the media asking for expertise guidance on specific topics. So I get these again twice a day, every day, and usually at least 2 or 3 times a week, there's something in there related to real estate. For example, buttercream topic as a like, hello, looking for real estate experts on the trend of buttercream paint for houses. What do you know? And that's a great opportunity to say, hey, I just sold a house in, record time with buttercream, whatever it is that you have a point of view about. They talk often about design trends. A lot of like Better Homes and Gardens hits will be on there, Architectural Digest, lots of really great real estate related media outlets asking real estate agents for topics and trends about mortgages, about home buying trends. Like I just saw one the last week that was saying, what are the top 26 trends that home buyers want? And so these are all things you know. And so you can just easily say, hey, I'm an agent in so and so from so and so. Here's what we're seeing in Sacramento. Make sure that you do make sure that you're using your own voice on this and your own regional experience so that you're not just having AI write the response and then sending it because they do that will you won't make it into the coverage. But if you actually share your own wisdom and experience, then you're likely to get great coverage. Um, Contributing content, going to your local publications, asking if they need a real estate specific column about what's happening, even your neighborhood newsletters. All of these usually have a footprint online, and this footprint online will be scoured by that AI assistant who reads every single piece, and it creates an authority signal. So think about going beyond your own channels and finding channels, maybe even with the community that you volunteer at. They probably have opportunity for you to contribute to their newsletter that's online or to their blog that's online. And all of these things then point back to you. Awards, the same reason. And even when you think about like people who win awards, usually there's a landing page of all of those award winners with a link that comes back to you. And again, this is just all of these things. If there's a digital component to it, somebody, AI, will be able to scroll it and find it and then validate you. So that is some ways, those are some easy ways to get covered and get covered without having to hire a PR person. Now, if you have budget and you're serious about this, you can always hire a PR person and put together a full plan. And that is something that is fun to do with great results. But you can always start for free. The second thing are client reviews and testimonials. So this has always been important. Some agents do this very well. Some agents have them and then they're stored in databases or they're stored in spreadsheets, but they're not online. If you've committed to a real estate specific uh, client review or testimonial program, like a testimonial tree or a Rate My Agent, who I have worked with both of them. Um, that is okay, and it's great. Keep doing that, but you do want to make sure you have a Google strategy. And I'm not talking about a plugin that shows Google the reviews. I'm talking about directly in Google that it will be crawled and read. And the reason why is because in that earlier example of how those companies were organically ranking, it really was about their Google reviews. Now, the tip that I want you to shift so that you can make your reviews work for you is making sure that you go from a generic, like 5 star, love her, to making sure that whatever it is that you want to be known for or to rank for in AI is showing up in your review. So, for example, if I want to be that person who is an expert in cottage style homes, then I would want to prompt my client to say, hey, Molly is an incredible expert in cottage style homes who guided us through all of the steps, from find, that and getting very, very specific. So instead of just being a great agent, she's actually referencing the things that AI can say, yep, point, 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 and yes, yes, and yes. And they're matching to what I'm saying online to what my clients are saying, and that sentiment is checking out. So just making sure that our reviews get really specific. If you have already invested heavily in the other platforms, I would go back to your agents, going back to your clients and then just asking them to do a specific review like this in the Google platform. And maybe you incentivize them with a cup of coffee or, for their time or something. But I would actually, this is a great moment to do this campaign. And it can be as simple as, hey, I'm cleaning up my Google business profile. Your help means the world to me. You left this great review. Here it is. Can, like even maybe taking that review and saying, just flipping it into something and then it's giving them the link directly into Google. So again, this compelling social proof is the absolute gold that you need. So if somebody sees it or they hear about it or the AI reading it, it works for you on both fronts. Okay, content. I love content. I'm a natural storyteller. This is my jam. And so I want to just go through some of the content best practices so that you can be inspired here. So, again, you have likely done a lot of this before. There was, all of the content you can think about celebrating your community and celebrating, that the types of homes. All of this is really great SEO anyway. But in terms of how do you like a really great step-by-step process for doing this well, I like to interview people and I like to do it online so that when I am having the interview, I'm also getting the transcription. I then take the transcription from the interview and then create an article by throwing the transcription into the AI to create a personalized article. That personalized article goes on my blog. And then that YouTube, and then the video itself then goes, that would be posted on YouTube. And then I use AI to create an optimized YouTube description so that my content on YouTube can be found. And a prompt could simply be something like, from the perspective of a SEO expert, create a optimized YouTube description from this transcript. And then again, throw the transcript in and then using that for your YouTube. You could also take the audio and you can create a podcast from the audio into any of the millions of podcasts um, profiles there are. So again, one interview could become a blog, could become a YouTube video, and could become a podcast. And then all of that is distributed out through your social media channels, including LinkedIn for a professional authority. So instead of creating a bunch of new content, you can just really be smart with AI as a partner, and making sure that you're optimizing for AI using AI with appropriate prompts. And finally, that video content deserves its own conversation too, because these are playlists that you can have within your YouTube channel. These are your 3-minute walkthroughs. Hey, I'm giving you a market update. These are your touring your neighborhoods. These are your interviewing your local businesses. These are interviewing your neighbors. These are the Q&As that people typically ask. Sarita Dua has a great channel called Ask Sarita. That's a great example if you're looking for inspiration. Market myth busting content are great, but think about content clusters. And when I say content clusters, it's really playlists. But when you are organizing yourself on YouTube, think about all of the things that somebody would be searching for in that thing. Again, going back to that initial trick that I taught you with the auto suggest in Google and that whole list of 10 to 12 different things that show up, that's a cluster. And so if you're saying, okay, I'm going to, best businesses in, Sacramento or wherever, and then you look at your auto suggest and there's 10 different things about businesses in Sacramento, those are great guides for you to go through with your video content. And that is a playlist or a cluster. So the more that we can organize and bucket things into groups, the easier it is for AI to make those connections. And all we're doing is creating those breadcrumbs, driving them back to us. So again, one well-made video can generate leads for years and years if you optimize it to be found, and use that AI as that, again, the prompt from an expert, YouTube, SEO, create a dynamic prompt to maximize discoverability for potential new clients in this area. So, and again, I have some prompt suggestions for you in the back of this that you can download for free. All right. So, oops, let's go back here. So again, a recent study came out testing thousands and thousands of pages, and these three things were what was enabling your content to be found and recommended in the generative engine optimization. So that's within the different chat agents. ChatGPT was the primary in the study, but there's also Perplexity, there's Claude, there's Gemini, there's a whole bunch of them. And in those places, these three things are what is the critical factors. One is the structured content, so that's clear headers. And when you write, make sure you have H1, the most important thing on the page, H2, H3 as you go down. Your schema, it's a little bit technical, but you can ask AI to create schema for you. Direct answers, those are the FAQs, question and answer. All of those things are breadcrumbs. The second are the brand mentions and PR. That's that third-party validation that we were talking, which makes those media hits so important because someone else is recommending you. And then the third is that comprehensive coverage. That's that content that we're talking about in terms of your articles that you're creating, and all of that YouTube strategy. But those three things are what is going to make AI recommend you. But before we go any further, I do want to call out this study that came out in the summer that MIT Media Lab published. And basically, nearly 50% of our cognitive decline was reduced because of AI use. So what was the study? It basically said the people who are copying and pasting with their AI were losing nearly 50% of their cognitive abilities because they're losing critical thinking and they're just leaning into our AI agents without that human perception. So I just want to call this out right here because that's an alarming stat that if you are going to be using AI, that you are likely to lose 50% of your brain capacity. And so I want you to be viewing AI as a partner and a tool and not as a replacement for your own human intelligence, for your own experience. All of that experience, all of that knowledge and neighborhood expertise that you've developed over the years, there is nothing that can replace that. There is nothing that can replace your relationship. So make sure that you don't abdicate your voice to an AI agent and be a part of the slop. And so I hope that this really hits you, and so that you can have your AI partner as a collaborator, and everything should be checked, everything should be read and edited, and you should never be copying and pasting anything ever with AI, because you're still going to always be accountable for whatever you put out in the world. And if it's wrong, or if it's in violation of fair housing, or if it is just inaccurate, that you're going to end up having to, own that. So make sure that you don't ever replace your human thinking. And there really are very real threats. So when you start to use an AI, you notice that you can train your AI where you can say whether it's per project or in an overview. So I highly recommend that you just copy and paste this compliance prompt in that training area. And this covers things like fair housing and transparency with AI. It covers data compliance, verification, copyright infringement, making sure that no single source has more than 12 to 15 words from a single place to protect yourself, and then always reminding you to that your professional responsibility matters. And there are times when AI is a very useful tool, and then there are times when it's a starting point, and that you should always have your own human voice in the mix. Again, I have some downloads of this for it, but these are some of the things I would be worried about in terms of protecting myself if I were using AI in real estate. So, the strategic advantage, right? Lots of people are saying, and worried about AI taking their jobs. And I do think there is validity there. But I do think that agents and brokers who learn how to prompt, they understand AI's limitations, they understand the different types of AIs for their workflow, and they understand how to make choices for their AI based on need. These are the folks who are going to have a real strategic advantage. And you don't have to choose between technology and relationships. Actually, done well, one can leverage the other. And so I do hope that your first step would be to audit your content that you already have and think about how do you make it more AI friendly, with those FAQs, making sure that you have them in multiple sources, doing those audits of how you're showing up, doing the soul work of understanding what is your unique value prop in your market, and how can you optimize those reviews? How do you optimize your content so that you can streamline that process? All right. So it is confusing and it is a lot. So I've started a free online community. We are going to just a learning circle where we are going to meet the first Thursday of every month, and just ask questions. And what are we learning? I mean, like I said, a few months ago, Reddit and Quorum were a part of this presentation, and I removed it because now ChatGPT is particularly moving towards more authoritative signals and less community signals. So I had to remove that. But all of these are rapidly changing. And so I just want to make sure that we can all stay current together. So feel free to take a picture of that and join our learning circle for free if you're interested. And then finally, as promised, this QR code, it will take you to that landing page that has two downloads. One is a prompt engineering, and then another is just basics of AI for real estate. So hopefully these free resources will be valuable to you as you continue your AI journey, as you start to really be intentional about building trust, focusing on your relationships, building community, and sharing all of that online so that those breadcrumbs can find their way back to you. All right, deep breath. We can do this together. Take care.